Hello Warriors, it's myself, Peter DeCrans here, and in this video I want to give you an overview of what the heck is pottery. What is it? What's ceramics? What is it? What are the different methods for making it? Why is this even a thing? How do I do this stuff? What tools am I going to be using? How am I going to get this created? Just give you kind of an answer like what, how, and why for the things we're going to be doing in this class. And so this should give you a good overview. A lot of this stuff we'll be covering more in detail in the semester as time goes by, but this should, by the end of this, you should be at least able to know the different methods for how to make things, know the stages of clay, know what a kiln is, and kind of know how you can get stuff graded, and just the basic meat and potatoes of the class. So let's talk about this. So, welcome to Warrior Pottery. Let's start out with, what the heck is ceramics? What is pottery? What the heck? What are these things? Well, I'll just keep it simple. So, ceramics, it's just the process of when something changes, when you put it in fire, you heat it up. So, it changes, it's not the same thing anymore after heating it up. And so, prehistoric humans, after we invented fire, started like throwing different things in, and someone decided to throw some clay into a fire. And once it got a really hot fire, around 1,000 degrees, 900 degrees, it changed. Like clay changed, and all of a sudden, instead of like turning into mud, it turned into a vessel which could hold water, which could hold oil, which could hold different things, and which could make different tools, make different art. So ceramics is just the process of the materials permanently changing when heated. Now, ceramic art is the process of using clay to make either pottery or sculpture. So what is pottery? Pottery is just a general term for a clay pot, or any number of containers. But when you think of in art, pottery is something made out of clay that serves a purpose, it serves a function. Whereas sculpture tends to be, doesn't necessarily have to serve a function. It might be just, just because it is. So that's kind of the difference between pottery and sculpture. But pottery is ceramics. It falls under the ceramics thing. So a lot of people talk about ceramics and pottery in the same sentence, and they use the word similar because they are very similar, because pottery is ceramics. But sometimes ceramics might not be pottery. So, my gosh, ceramics have been around the world forever. Again, like prehistoric human beings. Just when they made when they figured out that you could change something by heating it up and use it, it changed everything. I personally, I've been in Beijing in China, and I went through lots of museums and saw pots from different dynasties that were thousands upon thousands of years old. I've been to like in Iraq by the ancient city of Ur, which was one of the first cities. Saw different pots, which again were 4,000 years old. From South America to North America, from to Asia to Africa to Europe, like human beings have been using pottery to move things, to hold things, to keep things safe. But more than that, they've also used it to show their culture, to show things that is important to them. So pottery's been around forever. Dates back to 24,000 BC. So again, pottery, it's everywhere. Now, how are you going to how's pottery made? And now there's really three different methods. One is your hand method, making things with your hands, and I'll talk about the different parts of that in a little bit. So one's making things with your hands. The second one is making things on a wheel, which spins. And the third one is slip casting, where you're pouring liquid clay into a plaster mold, and then it hardens and comes out. So I'll talk about a little bit of those in detail here in a second. So first, let's talk about the hand-built projects, and we're going to spend the majority of this semester going through the hand-built projects for a lot of the projects you're going to be making here. So the first one is the pinch method. And what's the pinch method? It's really kind of what it sounds like. So you're pinching, making your ball clay, and you're putting your thumb in there, and you're pinching, and you're making different shapes with your hands. And then that's the basic thing of using your hands, using the pinch method to make a shape. And then you can add stuff onto it, add different things, decorate it. But it's the very first method, using the pinch method, which we'll be doing 2 weeks from now. So here's a couple different examples. You can see they glazed them. You use a pinch method to make it look like a flower, pinch method to make it look like a bag. But it's just using your hands and use that pinching method between your thumb and your fingers to make a shape. The next method is the coil method. Now coils, you take clay and you roll it out, and you make like big, like long, like snakes, like rolls of coils. And these coils, what you do is you roll them up, and you stack them up on top of each other, and then you can make different shapes. So you're taking the coils, adding on top of one another. Then you're using what's called scoring and slipping, which is making little grooves up and down the coil, and the slip is the watery clay, which acts as a glue to hold it all together. And then you can make different shapes and stuff like that. We'll be making 2 coil projects this semester. Here's some different examples of coils. You can leave the coils out to show like a decorations on the coils, or you can smooth them out to make things super smooth on the inside. And again, we'll talk about that later as we get up to the coil method. Then the last of the hand-built methods, the slab method. And for that, what you're going to do is you roll out coil, or roll out a slab of clay, which take like a roller, roll it out, and flatten it out. Or you can use your hands to use the kind of make a pancake method. But you have a flat piece of clay. Then you can cut out that piece of clay, and you can then score and slip. You can score and slip to like add different shapes onto different shapes to make everything from cups to boxes to anything that's flat. You could do all sorts of different things, but it's flat shapes of clay put together with scoring and slipping. And here's different examples of the slab method. And we'll be making a mug and a slab box with this later in the semester. And so those are the hand methods ones. And the next one's wheel throwing. And for throwing on a wheel, what you guys will all get a chance to do, you're taking a clay, throwing it on the wheel, or you're putting it on the wheel. You're getting it centered. It's the most important part is to get it centered. Then you're using your hands as the wheel is spinning to go into the clay, hollow it out, and smooth it out to like make a vase. Make any cylindrical type object. It can be as thin as a plate or as like big as like a tall bird feeder. But it's the process of the spinning of the wheel and moving your hands to make the pot. And here's different examples. You can see a teapot, a regular flower pot, and you got the various bowls and plates. But you know, the big thing is if think of round things. So using the wheel, you're going to make something that's cylindrical. It can be as wide, short, tall as you want it. You could add different things to it afterwards, such as the spout on the teapot here. So that's kind of the cylindrical. Then the last method is called slip casting. Now, fix that spelling here. So what slip casting is, and I've done this a couple times, is like say you make something that's really cool, and you spent a lot of time on it. Now you want to mass produce it, and the way to do it is you're taking plaster and you're making a plaster mold of something, and then once you have the plaster mold of it, you're cutting the plaster to open it up. Now you can take the thing that you want to make and put the plaster back. Now it's empty, it's hollow on the inside, and you pour slip in it. Slip is a mixture of clay and water, and you pour that slip inside it, and then you dump the excess out, and then you wait, and after like a day or two, you can remove the plaster and take the object out, and then that's how you can mass produce and make lots of different objects using the same thing. And that's it. We probably won't get a chance to do this semester just because it takes a long time to make the plaster and get everything else like that to mass produce things. But if you had something you really, really loved and you want to mix some plaster together, that's slip casting, how that works. So here's some different examples of slip casting. Here you got a mass produced cup. The big thing is like everything's like the same. So once you do slip casting, like I got the shoes right here. The shoes are exactly the same shoe over and over and over and over and over again, because once you get the plaster mold, it all stays the same, and you're just mass producing it. So those are the methods of how we're to make things. Now let me talk about the different stages of clay. So you're gonna get clay, and depending on like first part, the first row up here, the top four, it just kind of depends on is everything before the first five, everything before it gets fired. So first of all, you have dry clay, and to start with, we're not going to throw away any clay. Every bit of clay we're going to recycle and continue to use over and over again. So you have clay that's dry. Sometimes we'll smash it up, break it up with a hammer, break up the little pieces, or not. You don't have to, but sometimes it's easier to mix in the slip if you do that. But dry clay, all the moisture's out of it. Just regular dry plain clay. Now you take that dry clay and you mix it and add water to it and mix it up, and then you kind of get what's called slip. And slip is like a liquidy clay. It's tend to get kind of thick. I would kind of say like a good consistency. You can have different consistency, but like I'd say I'd like to have like my slip about maple syrup, like a good maple syrup consistency. And then what's nice about that is you can use that slip as glue to like hold two pieces of clay together after scoring it off. So that's the second part. Now you take that slip and you put it out, it dries up, and then eventually it gets to be a plastic consistency workable clay. Workable clay is like kind of the clay you have right now with a big ball of clay. You can make it into different shapes. You can morph it and like hopefully like holds its shape or comes pretty close. So that's kind of workable clay where you're building things, making things out of it. Then the next one is called leather hard stage. And like the leather hard clay, now it's not easy to bend and move as much anymore, but it's like nice for decorating. So you want to decorate, you want to like punch some holes in it, you want to add some texture to it, you want to do different things like this. Now is like a good time for that. But really, if you start trying to like morph it like you would earlier, it's just going to start cracking and breaking, and it's not going to work. But it's great for decorating. Next, you have the bone dry stage. So now the bone dry stage is like now you take that leather hard clay, you have it the way you want it, and you leave it out, and it gets pretty white, and it gets all dry. Most of the moisture gets out. And you want to have all the moisture out so it doesn't explode in the kiln, which I'll talk about later. So that's the bone dry clay. Your project's done, ready to be fired. Next is called the bisqueware clay, and what happens in this stage is now I take that bone dry clay and I put it in the kiln. I put it in the kiln for 1800 degrees. At 1800 degrees for, I don't know, usually about 18 hours, 14 hours, 20 hours, just depends. Anyways, by heating it up to 1800 degrees, it changes. Now, like before that, you can take bone dry clay and you can recycle it back to dry clay, goes slipping. You can recycle it over and over again, use it over and over again. But once you put it in the kiln, it's going to be that way forever. Unless you smash it, it's going to like be around thousands of years from now in the same shape it's in. If you were to like pour water into a bone dry clay, it would eventually start turning into like a muddy, like, clay, gooey clay thing. If you were to pour water in a clay after it went through a bisque fire, the water would stay in there until it evaporates, because it's not going anywhere. So that's the bisque stage. And then after that, you can go through and you can glaze it, and by putting glaze on it, you can decorate it, and you put it back inside the kiln for a second time, heat it up to 2200 degrees, and then that's where you get you can make it look cool, glossy, different colors, different textures, and different things like that to decorate it